Hello there. I'm Black Bright News and I want to ask a question. What is an immigrant? For a minority of people, I'd be considered an immigrant. Even though I was born here, I've been here over 70 years, I'd be still considered an immigrant because of the colour of my skin. But what is the legal definition of immigrant? The legal definition has usually got something to do with your immigration status. It's about those people who've come from different countries, regardless of whether it's a white country or a black country or an Asian country, with the intention to live permanently in the UK. Now, when you have a group of people who do not know how to separate an immigrant from somebody who is born here, there's an issue. And the thing is that when you think about that issue, it's about people who, it's about a whole group of people, regardless of their colour, feeling uncomfortable. Now, you have people who are called an immigrant just because they have an accent. So you have white people who come from Europe, and because they have an accent, they're considered foreigners. They're considered immigrants, but not in the same way as black and Asian people or people from the Arab states. Not in the same way. And we have to ask ourselves, why is the emphasis being placed on immigration and immigrants when people do not know how to distinguish what an immigrant is? Now, I could go outside and maybe if I was in one of these groups where they have low tolerance for people of colour, they would look at me. They're not going to think to themselves, oh, I wonder if she's got a legal status. I wonder if she's allowed to be in the country. I wonder if she's legal. I wonder if she's got a criminal record. No, that's not even going to cross their minds. She's black. She's an immigrant. Let's get her. And that seems to be the mindset of this small group of people who don't want to understand or learn about why the country is in the mess it's in and why they need to point fingers. So, what have I written here? The word immigrant is being bandied around a lot recently. But what is and who are the immigrants? Well, I've already explained that. I've already explained that to some I'm an immigrant because I'm not white. So for some immigrants who are blacks, Asians, anyone not white or whites who have an accent, they're considered immigrants or foreigners, or they're not one of us. And why is it important to discriminate? Why? Why is it important to point fingers? What are people afraid of? Because if everyone understood that we all have a role in the country and we all have a responsibility, and we have those in all sizes and colours in jail who are not doing the best for the country. So what do we do with those? So immigrants are normally identified by the colour of their skin, and that causes a problem for those born here. those who've paid for citizenship, and those en route for settlement. The term immigrant is anyone who has left a country to live in another country, usually permanently. But what about, and since that's the definition, what about Brits who have moved to another country to live permanently? We've got over 5.5 million white Brits who are living abroad permanently. They're immigrants in those countries that they're living in. Would they like to know that they're immigrants? Would they like people to point fingers at them? They would suggest that because they're white, they have a right to be there and nobody should point a finger at them. They are somehow immune to discrimination. I'm not quite sure why, but that is sometimes the attitude of many people who are in this category. So they go to Spain, they go to Australia, they go to the US, they go to Canada, and they decide to live there. They normally go to places where they speak the language, where they don't have to adapt too much, where they can have their own little community. They talk about foreigners coming over here and not mixing. But yet, if they go to Spain, they all go to where all the Brits are. If they go to Australia, well, no matter where they go, they have their own little British commune. And they don't mix either. So I'm not quite sure what the resolve is, or even where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to, I guess, give food for thought. What is it about immigration that is so frightening? Apart from the numbers and apart from the fact that, the government has made some kind of boo-boo and not monitored them properly and can't afford. But mind you, sometimes it's not even that they can't afford it, because they've got enough money to pay the what they call them? The fat? I forget what they call them. But anyway, the rich people. They've got enough to pay them to have these jobs and pay them goodness knows how much a year. They've got enough for that. They've got enough to pay for their expenses, £10,000 a month. They've got enough for them to live in these houses. They've got enough to pay their allowances. So is it because if you have immigrants, you're not going to have even more for yourself? When I say even more for yourself, I'm talking about those who have it already. Is that what the issue is? Because it does appear that it's got more to do with, well, it's always to do with money and power anyway. But I think we are being distracted from the real reason why immigrants are being banded all over the place and under the guise of small boats and hotels and goodness knows what. Because like I said, they are a minority. They're a big minority, but they're a minority nonetheless. But when you see them, it's just like if you put all black people in Bradford, say for example, it would look like we were overrun, wouldn't it? But if you put where am I going with this? I'm trying to think of a good scenario. It's got more to do with concentration in a particular area than it has to do with the actual fact that you're overcrowded or there's too much. Like I said, black people are 4%. 4% in the UK. That's a spit in the ocean. So we have to try to understand why there is so much aggravation going on and agitation, why there's so much division, why there's so much anger and hostility. Once we get to the root of that, I guess we'll make some progress. But until then, I guess we have to just watch this space. Until then, I'll say goodbye for now and speak to you soon. Bye-bye.